All right. Good evening once again, everybody. Um, Obviously, I'm here again with my good friend Rajiv. And for those of you who have been watching us, will know that we have been talking about very slowly, pretty much about discrimination in the workplace, things that we can do to improve things as we go along, and so on. And so basically, what we're trying to do, we're trying to find solutions. As we move forward with these kinds of conversation. I know some of you, personally have asked questions and so on. One of the things I will encourage you to do, if you have anything you would like to share in terms of discrimination in the workplace, we would like to hear from you for sure. So I can see that you are joining in there. I would encourage you to get your friends and so on to watch us and make sure that you're sharing this link so they can be part of this conversation here. And so, Rajiv, thank you so much again for taking the time to be here. It's always a pleasure to have you. So how have you been for the past couple of weeks? I know you're off and I was off and so on, but we're back, so that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I know. I was always looking forward to doing the next sort of interview with you, and summer is flying by very quickly.
That's right.
But we have to, at the same time, carry on our message and of power and employment and changes that need to happen in our diverse community, right?
For sure.
So here we are again.
For sure. And I mean, to continue our conversation, I'm sure there are a lot of things, obviously, we both have to share, and I'm sure a lot of people have to share as well, too. And last time when you were here, we were talking about, obviously, the different kinds of discrimination people face and all of these kinds of things. And I want to let you know that, discrimination comes in different forms, so people should not be discriminated based on their ethnical background or sexual orientation or whether that be men and women or age, all of these types of things, right? And I know that you've experienced discrimination. We are going to get right to the point in our own way here. And so I know you yourself have been discriminated in different ways and so on. And so, I mean, how did that start about, so to speak? You don't have to get in depth, but if you want to highlight some of the points, will be, I think it's going to be very helpful for our viewers.
Okay, it's a long story, but I'm going to try to sort of
highlights will be fine.
Reach the catalyst of what I believe was the starting point, and this would go back to the early 90s. I was hired in '88 as a police officer, one of the first few visible minority officers. And in 1991, I believe, I was selected to be on the emergency response unit, or known as the SWAT team.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously there was some talent that I possessed. The sergeant at that time approached me to apply for that position, to be part of that unit, and I was trained in martial arts. I was extremely fit physically, and basically he said, you know what, you should apply for that, and you go through different stages of testing, psychological and physical, and it's an elite sort of position. So, and I was also sent on a few tactical competitions to represent Oahu Regional Police Service. So you're handpicked even from that elite unit or very small numbers to go represent Ontario-wide competitions. So that happened twice, but as time went on, there was some animosity that was developing between myself, against myself, I should say, by this sergeant and a few other people. And I noticed differential treatment was going on with visible minorities, and I started to speak up about it, address certain issues, and that's when I received actually more differential treatment and resentment.
So you brought up a good point here, and so if I understand it correctly, you basically saw some sort of discrimination and you were trying to address those issues.
That's right.
But if I hear you correctly, you were saying that in a sense seems to not working so well, so to speak.
No, because I was going against the culture of the policing, and especially at that time, it was a very, privileged sort of white system, and that early 90s, you can imagine it was not the same as today.
For sure, for sure.
And we were very few in numbers, and still are. Visible minorities are still only 1% of the makeup of the service. That's about 34 officers over 100 or 800.
Oh wow!
Right. So that and the collective agreement and in terms of the police association, it also doesn't reflect any change to adopt these new needs.
And so if I hear it correctly too, it looks like, I mean, things have changed over the years, for sure. We are more diverse now compared to 20 years ago, so to speak. But it looks like we still have a far way to go. Will you agree or disagree with that?
I would disagree with that. You know, change is very important, but change doesn't come without sacrifice.
Sure.
Any meaningful change can't happen without meaningful sacrifice.
For sure, for sure.
So therefore, I don't believe change can happen, but change, in order to allow it to happen, everyone must go through that change in a curve to accept it. And it cannot be window dressing. It cannot be on paper or written in such language that no one adopts it or lives by it.
For sure.
So this is the problem in policing right now, and it is becoming quite evident, even in Waterloo Regional Police Service, that certain officers and certain issues are ongoing. There's a class action suit that's happening right now against them. I mean, these things were always there. I was one of the first ones to address it, right? And from my personal experience, dating back to it would have been in 1995 when I was on the SWAT team, that a white officer unlawfully discharges his firearm at the range, close to my feet, to startle other officers who were shooting down range. So I didn't know that he was going to do that. It was just him and I loading our clips for the next round of shooting, and the next thing I know, he fires this round, which is unlawful, discharge of firearm, and it's careless use of a firearm. And this whole issue is, again, at that point, handled internally, covered up, no police act charges or any criminal charge, and at the same time, he's removed temporarily off the unit, and that was used as a catalyst to remove me off the unit back then. And about 4 to 6 months later, he was reinstated back onto the unit, and I never was.
Okay, so again, so if I was to highlight what you're saying, to make a long story short, you, in a sense, you weren't treated fairly, is what you're trying to say.
Exactly. Nothing close to it. And if you speak up, you were basically, as a visible minority officer, you were segregated, and then they would try to, not associate with you.
Yeah.
And I've experienced that at many levels throughout my years of being there.
So what Rajiv is saying here, obviously there are discrimination in the workplace, and speaking up, it can be a hard thing to do, and something can go against you, but at the same time, if we don't speak up, the problem will always remain there.
Exactly.
It's how